Look, I'm gonna be straight up with you right now. There are some secrets that are so gnarly, so totally messed up, that they can literally blow up your entire world in like 5 seconds flat. And this is one of those stories. Picture this for a sec. A dude who runs the streets, calls all the shots, got everyone shook just hearing his name. Total boss move, right? But here's the kicker, the guy's got this one weakness, this one thing that could take him down faster than you can say busted. And no cap, it's not what you think. We're talking about a connection so twisted, so completely off the rails, that when the truth comes out, and trust me it will, everything's gonna come crashing down like a house of cards in an earthquake. The crazy part? The person who could destroy him has zero clue who he really is. None. Zilch. Nada. She's living her life, thinking everything's chill, meanwhile this dude's sweating bullets every single day, praying she never finds out. Because if she does, game over. Not just for him but for everyone in his circle. So buckle up because what I'm about to tell you is gonna mess with your head. Art. But before we dive deep into this madness, do me a solid real quick. If you're vibing with this story and want to know how this whole thing plays out, hit that subscribe button right now and smash that like. Seriously, you don't want to miss what happens next because this gets wild, like totally off the chain wild. Plus, if you subscribe, you'll be the first to catch all the twisted secrets and shocking moments we drop on this channel. Trust me, you'll be mad at yourself if you skip this one and never find out what happens when the mafia boss and the cop's daughter finally collide. So yeah, subscribe now. You'll thank me later. Now let's get back to the story because things are about to get real sketchy real fast. Alright, so let me paint the picture for you. Los Angeles, right? City of angels, but also city of demons if you know where to look. We're talking about the kind of place where the sunshine hides the shadows, where million-dollar mansions sit right next to neighborhoods where people don't ask questions because asking questions gets you hurt. And in this world, in this crazy mixed-up scene, there's this guy. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus Delgado. Now, Marcus ain't your typical dude. On the surface, he's legit. Owns a bunch of restaurants, a couple of clubs in downtown LA, drives a blacked-out Range Rover, wears designer suits that probably cost more than most people's rent. To the regular folks, the ones sipping lattes in Silver Lake or catching waves in Venice Beach, Marcus is just another successful businessman living that California dream. But here's the thing about Marcus that nobody talks about, at least not out loud. The restaurants? Their fronts. The clubs? Money laundering operations. That Range Rover? Bulletproof because yeah, people have tried. Marcus Delgado runs the most powerful crime syndicate on the West Coast. We're talking drugs, weapons, protection rackets, underground gambling, you name it. If it's illegal and it makes money, Marcus has got his hands in it. And he's good at it. Like scary good. The kind of good where even the cops who know what he's doing can't touch him because he's always 10 steps ahead, always got lawyers on speed dial, always got someone taking the fall before it reaches him. Dude's basically untouchable. Or at least he was, until about 6 months ago when his whole world got flipped upside down in the most unexpected way possible. See, Marcus has this rule, this one golden rule he's lived by since he took over the operation from his old man 15 years back. Never get personal. Never let anyone get close. Never catch feelings. Business is business and feelings make you sloppy. Feelings make you weak. And in his line of work, weak means dead. So Marcus kept everyone at arm's length. Sure, he had his crew, his soldiers, people who'd take a bullet for him, but even they didn't really know him. They knew the boss, the guy who signed their checks and gave the orders, but they didn't know Marcus. The real Marcus. The one who sometimes couldn't sleep at night thinking about all the lives he destroyed, all the choices he couldn't take back. That Marcus stayed locked away deep inside where nobody could find him. And then one night everything changed. It was supposed to be a simple night out. Marcus had just closed a major deal, the kind that would set him up for years, and he decided to hit up this new spot in West Hollywood, some bougie rooftop bar where the drinks cost $30 and the view makes you forget you're spending $30 on a drink. He wasn't looking for anything, wasn't trying to meet anyone, just wanted to chill for once, you know? Be a regular person for a few hours. And that's when he saw her. She was standing by the edge of the rooftop, looking out over the city, and man, it was like everything else just disappeared. I know that sounds corny, like something out of a bad romance movie, but that's legit what happened. Marcus has been with plenty of women, don't get it twisted, but this was different. This girl had this energy about her, this light that just pulled him in. She was wearing this simple black dress, nothing too fancy, hair pulled back, minimal makeup, but she didn't need any of that. She was stunning without even trying. And when she turned around and their eyes met, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not the kind of fear you get when someone's pointing a gun at you, but the kind that comes from knowing you're about to do something really stupid and you're gonna do it anyway. He walked over, played it cool, introduced himself as Marcus, just Marcus, left out the whole last name situation. They started talking and this girl was sharp. Quick wit, smart as hell, had opinions on everything from politics to the best taco spots in LA, and she wasn't afraid to call him out when she thought he was talking nonsense. Her name was Elena Rodriguez, and she was in her last year at UCLA, studying criminal justice of all things. She told him she wanted to make a difference, wanted to help people, clean up the streets, all that idealistic stuff young people say before the world beats it out of them. Marcus should have walked away right then and there. Should have finished his drink, said nice meeting you and bounced. But he didn't. Instead he asked for her number. And she gave it to him. They started seeing each other after that. Nothing too serious at first, just coffee here and there, maybe a movie, dinner at some low-key spot where nobody would recognize him. Marcus kept it casual, told himself he could handle it, that he'd keep his two worlds separate. Elena knew him as Marcus, the restaurant owner, the guy who worked too much and traveled a lot for business. She didn't ask too many questions, which Marcus appreciated, and he made sure to never give her reasons to dig deeper. For a couple months it actually worked. Marcus would handle his business during the day, the deals, the meetings, the occasional situation that needed his personal attention. And then at night he'd switch gears, become regular Marcus, the guy who'd pick Elena up from campus and take her to get boba tea in Koreatown or catch the sunset at El Matador Beach. It was the closest thing to a normal life Marcus had ever had, and honestly, felt good. Really good. Too good. Which should have been his first warning sign. But Marcus was in too deep by then. He'd broken his golden rule. He'd caught feelings. Real ones. The kind that made him check his phone every 5 minutes waiting for her texts. The kind that made him smile like an idiot when he heard her voice. The kind that made him start thinking about things he'd never thought about before. Like maybe getting out of the game. Maybe going legit for real. Maybe having an actual future instead of just waiting for the day when his luck ran out and someone put a bullet in his head. And Elena, she was falling for him too. He could tell by the way she looked at him, the way she'd laugh at his dumb jokes, the way she'd grab his hand when they walked. She thought she'd found a good guy, someone stable, someone real in a city full of fakes. If only she knew. If only she had any clue who she was really falling for. But here's where things get absolutely bonkers. About 4 months into their thing, Elena invited Marcus to dinner at her parents' house. She was all excited about it, talking about how her family was super important to her and she really wanted him to meet them, especially her dad. She kept saying how her dad was her hero, how he'd worked his way up from nothing, how he'd dedicated his whole life to making the city safer. And Marcus, being the idiot he was at that point, said yes. He figured it'd be fine, just one dinner, meet the folks, play the good boyfriend role, keep everyone happy. So he showed up that Sunday evening, flowers in hand, wearing a nice but not too nice outfit, ready to put on the performance of his life. Elena's house was in Pasadena, one of those classic California bungalows with a big front porch and a perfectly maintained lawn. Real wholesome vibes. Marcus knocked on the door, Elena answered with this huge smile, pulled him inside and led him to the dining room where her parents were waiting. And that's when Marcus's heart straight up stopped. Because sitting at the head of the table, wearing a polo shirt and dad jeans, was Captain Robert Rodriguez, head of the LAPD's Organized Crime Division. The same Captain Rodriguez who'd been hunting Marcus for the past 5 years. The same Captain Rodriguez who'd sworn in press conferences that he'd bring down the Delgado operation if it was the last thing he did. The same Captain Rodriguez whose task force had cost Marcus millions in seized assets and dozens of arrested crew members. Elena's dad, Elena's hero, was Marcus's #1 enemy. And judging by the look on Captain Rodriguez's face when he shook Marcus's hand, he knew exactly who Marcus was too. Now, I need you to understand something right here. This moment, this exact moment when Marcus's hand met Captain Rodriguez's hand, this was the moment when everything that came after became inevitable. Like watching a boulder roll down a hill, you know it's gonna crash at the bottom, you just don't know how bad the damage is gonna be. And both of them, Marcus and the captain, they both knew it. You could feel the tension in that room thick enough to cut with a knife. But here's the absolutely insane part. Elena had no clue. Zero. She was just standing there all happy and excited, talking about how great it was that the two most important men in her life were finally meeting, completely oblivious to the fact that these two dudes would gladly destroy each other if given half a chance. The dinner was brutal, and I mean brutal. Captain Rodriguez played it cool on the surface, asked Marcus all these questions about his business, where he grew up, what his plans were, all that typical dad stuff, but Marcus could hear the real questions underneath. The captain was fishing, trying to get Marcus to slip up, say something that would give him an excuse to do something right then and there. And Marcus, he played his part too, answering everything vague enough to not be a lie but specific enough to sound legit. Meanwhile, Elena's mom, sweet lady named Carmen, she's just trying to keep everything nice, passing around the tamales she made, talking about the weather, completely unaware that her dining room had basically become a war zone. The whole thing lasted maybe 2 hours, but it felt like 2 years. When it was finally over and Marcus was walking back to his car with Elena, she was all smiles, saying how well it went, how her dad seemed to really like him. And Marcus just nodded, played along, kissed her goodnight, and drove away. But the second he was alone in that Range Rover, he lost it. Punched the steering wheel so hard he almost broke his hand. Because he knew. He knew this couldn't continue. He knew he had to end things with Elena before this whole situation exploded in everyone's faces. But here's the thing about Marcus that made this situation even more complicated. Despite everything, despite knowing how dangerous this was, despite knowing he should walk away, he couldn't. He was in love with her. Like really, truly, stupidly in love. And that's what made him do something even dumber than dating the police captain's daughter in the first place. He decided to keep seeing her. To keep the relationship going. To keep living this double life and hope that somehow, someway it would all work out. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Over the next couple months, things got even more twisted. Captain Rodriguez started showing up places. Random places. Like, Marcus would be having lunch with Elena at some cafe in Santa Monica, and boom, there's the captain just happening to be in the neighborhood. Or they'd be catching a movie, and who's sitting 3 rows back? Captain Rodriguez. Dude was basically stalking them, and Elena thought it was sweet, thought her dad just wanted to get to know Marcus better. But Marcus knew what was really going down. The captain was sending a message. A message that said, I know who you are, I know what you're doing, and I'm watching your every move. And it was working. Marcus was getting paranoid, looking over his shoulder constantly, making mistakes in his business because his head wasn't in the game. His crew noticed. His second-in-command, a dude named Javier who'd been with Marcus since day one, he pulled Marcus aside one day and was like, Yo boss, what's going on with you? You're slipping. And Marcus couldn't even explain it. How do you tell your right-hand man that you're dating the daughter of the cop who's trying to put you all in prison? You don't. So Marcus just told Javier to mind his business and keep the operation running smooth. But things were far from smooth. See, while Marcus was busy trying to juggle his 2 worlds, Captain Rodriguez was busy building a case. A real case. The kind that wouldn't just put Marcus away for a few years but would bury him for life. The captain had been collecting evidence, wiretaps, surveillance footage, testimony from low-level guys who'd flipped. He was building something big, something solid, something that even Marcus's expensive lawyers couldn't make go away. And the crazy part? The captain was using his daughter to do it. Not directly, Elena didn't know anything about it, but Rodriguez was watching Marcus through her. Every time Marcus picked her up, every place they went, every person Marcus talked to when he thought nobody was paying attention, the captain was cataloging it all. He was using his own daughter as bait to catch the biggest fish of his career. And Marcus, he had no idea how deep the trap went until it was way too late. Things really started falling apart about 6 months into the relationship. Marcus had this big shipment coming in, the kind that would set the organization up for the whole year. Weapons from overseas, high-grade stuff that would sell for millions on the street. It was supposed to be a clean operation, in and out, no drama. Marcus had paid off all the right people, had his routes planned perfectly, had his best guys on it. But the night of the shipment, everything went sideways. The feds rolled up on the dock with like 50 agents, fully armed, helicopters and everything. It was a total bust. Marcus lost the shipment, lost 3 of his top guys who got arrested, and lost millions of dollars in product and payoffs. And when he dug into how it happened, how the feds knew exactly when and where to hit, all the evidence pointed to one source. A leak from inside the LAPD. From someone with access to organized crime intelligence. From someone like Captain Rodriguez. Marcus wanted to believe it was a coincidence. Wanted to think that maybe someone else in the department had snitched, that it wasn't Elena's dad who just cost him everything. But deep down he knew. The captain was making his move. And this was just the opening shot. After that, Marcus had a choice to make. He could cut his losses, end things with Elena, and disappear for a while until things cooled down. His crew was pushing him to do exactly that. Javier was practically begging him to get out of town, go to Mexico or something, lay low until they could regroup. But Marcus couldn't do it. Couldn't leave Elena without an explanation, couldn't just ghost her like she meant nothing. So instead he did something even more reckless. He decided to come clean. Not about everything but about enough. He asked Elena to meet him at their spot, this quiet beach in Malibu where they'd had their first real date. And when she showed up, all confused about why he seemed so serious, Marcus told her. Told her that his business wasn't exactly legal. Told her that he'd been lying to her about what he really did. Told her that he was involved in some seriously heavy stuff and that being with him put her in danger. He didn't say he was a crime boss, didn't mention the drugs or the weapons or any of that, but he said enough. Enough that she should have run. Should have called him every name in the book and never looked back. But Elena, she didn't run. Instead, she got quiet. Real quiet. Stared out at the ocean for what felt like forever. And then she turned to Marcus and said something that completely threw him. She said, "I know." Marcus was shook. Like, actually physically shook. He was like, "What do you mean you know?" And Elena took a deep breath and explained that she'd figured it out weeks ago. The mysterious meetings, the way he was always vague about work, the expensive lifestyle that didn't quite match up with owning a few restaurants. She'd put it together. And here's the part that really messed Marcus up. She said she tried to ignore it, tried to convince herself she was wrong, but deep down she knew. And she'd stayed anyway. Because she loved him. Because despite everything, despite knowing he was probably a criminal, despite knowing it was wrong on every level, she couldn't walk away either. They were both trapped. Both caught up in something way bigger than either of them. And neither one knew how to get out. That night on the beach, they made a promise to each other. Marcus promised he'd find a way to go legit, to get out of the life, to become the man she deserved. And Elena promised she'd stand by him while he did it, that she wouldn't give up on him. It was romantic and stupid and doomed from the start. Because what they didn't know, what neither of them could have possibly known, was that Captain Rodriguez had been listening to the whole conversation. He'd planted a bug in Elena's car weeks earlier, had been monitoring every private moment, every confession. And now he had exactly what he needed. Not just evidence against Marcus but leverage. The kind of leverage that would let him control the entire situation. The captain finally had Marcus right where he wanted him. And the endgame was about to begin. Hey, real quick before we continue. What do you think about all this so far? Is Marcus totally crazy for staying with Elena, or would you do the same thing for love? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between what's right and what your heart wants? Or maybe you know someone who's been through something like this. Share your story with us. We genuinely want to hear what you're thinking right now because your comments help me keep bringing these intense stories to you. And trust me, you're gonna want to stick around until the very end of this one because what happens next is absolutely mind-blowing. The captain's about to make a move that changes everything, and I mean everything. So don't go anywhere. Alright, so here's where everything goes completely off the rails. 2 days after that beach conversation, Marcus got a text. Unknown number. It just said, "We need to talk, tonight, 10 p.m., and then an address to some warehouse in Vernon. Now Marcus isn't stupid. He knew this could be a setup, could be someone trying to take him out. But something about the message felt different. Felt official. So he showed up, but he brought backup. Had Javier and 2 other guys positioned outside with instructions to come in guns blazing if anything went sideways. Marcus walked into that warehouse and there he was. Captain Rodriguez. Standing in the middle of this empty space, no backup, no wire, just him. And Marcus was like, "What is this? What are we doing here?" And the captain, man, he just smiled. Not a friendly smile, but the kind of smile someone gives you when they're holding all the cards and they know it. He told Marcus to relax, said he just wanted to have a conversation. Man to man. Off the record. And then Captain Rodriguez laid it all out. Told Marcus he had recordings of everything. The beach conversation, phone calls, meetings with crew members, financial transactions, witness testimonies. He had enough evidence to put Marcus away for 3 consecutive life sentences. Enough to dismantle the entire organization and everyone in it. Marcus could feel his blood running cold, but he kept his face neutral, asked the captain what he wanted. Because that's how this works, right? Nobody sets up a secret meeting just to gloat. They want something. And Captain Rodriguez, he wanted something big. He told Marcus that he could make all the evidence disappear. Could make the investigation go away. Could even provide protection for Marcus's operation going forward. But there was a price. Marcus had to give up his competitors. All of them. Every other crime family, every independent operator, every drug connection from here to the border. The captain wanted Marcus to become his personal informant. To hand him the biggest bust in California history on a silver platter. And in exchange, Marcus could keep doing business. Could keep his empire. Could even keep seeing Elena. The captain said he'd worked too hard to let his daughter throw her life away over some thug, but if that thug was working for him, helping clean up the streets by taking down everyone else, well, maybe that was acceptable. Maybe that was even noble in its own twisted way. Marcus stood there processing this, trying to figure out if the captain was serious or if this was some elaborate trap. And then Rodriguez dropped the real bomb. He said, "You think you're the first criminal who's fallen for my daughter? Elena's been my secret weapon for years. Smart, beautiful, idealistic, perfect bait for guys like you who think they're untouchable. 3 major busts in the last 5 years all started the same way. Elena meets someone, brings them home, I figure out who they really are, and I flip them or I bury them. Your choice which one you want to be. And that's when Marcus realized the absolute horror of the situation. Elena wasn't just the captain's daughter. She was a tool. A weapon he'd been using to destroy criminals. And the worst part? Marcus couldn't tell if Elena knew. Couldn't tell if the girl he'd fallen in love with was in on it the whole time or if she was just as much a victim of her father's manipulation as Marcus was. The captain must have seen the confusion on Marcus's face because he laughed. Told Marcus that Elena had no clue. Said his daughter genuinely believed she just had bad luck with men, that she kept accidentally falling for the wrong guys. She had no idea her father was orchestrating everything, monitoring her life, using her relationships to build cases. Rodriguez said he'd been doing it since Elena turned 21, since she'd started dating seriously. Every boyfriend, every relationship, all of it under surveillance. All of it part of his mission to clean up LA. Marcus felt sick. Like actually physically sick. Because now he understood. The random meetings, the way Elena had figured things out so easily, the timing of everything. It wasn't coincidence. It was design. The captain had probably fed Elena just enough information to make her suspicious, had probably planted seeds that led her to confront Marcus on that beach, knowing Marcus would confess, knowing it would all play out exactly like this. And now Marcus had a choice. Become a rat and betray everyone he'd ever worked with, or refuse and watch his entire world burn, including any chance he had with Elena. Because the captain made it crystal clear. If Marcus didn't cooperate, he wouldn't just arrest him. He'd tell Elena everything. Every murder Marcus had ordered, every life he'd destroyed, every horrible thing he'd ever done. He'd make sure Elena knew exactly what kind of monster she'd fallen in love with. And then he'd throw Marcus in a hole so deep he'd never see daylight again. Marcus asked for time to think about it. The captain gave him 48 hours. Said after that, the offer was off the table and the arrest would start. Marcus left that warehouse feeling like his entire reality had shattered. Everything he thought he knew, everything he thought was real, it was all a lie. Or was it? Because here's the thing that Marcus couldn't stop thinking about. If Elena was really just a pawn, if she really had no idea what her father was doing, then her feelings for Marcus were real. The love, the acceptance, the promise to stand by him, all of that was genuine. Which made it worse. Because it meant an innocent person, someone who'd done nothing wrong except fall in love with the wrong guy, was caught in the middle of this nightmare. And it also meant Marcus had a decision to make that would define the rest of his life. He could take the captain's deal, become an informant, betray everyone who'd ever trusted him. It would keep him out of prison, keep his business running, and maybe, just maybe, let him have a future with Elena. But it would also make him the thing he'd sworn he'd never become. A snitch. A rat. The lowest form of life in his world. Or he could refuse, take his chances in court, hope his lawyers could work some magic. But that would mean losing everything. His freedom, his empire, and Elena. Because even if by some miracle he beat the charges, the relationship would be over. The captain would make sure of that. Marcus spent those 48 hours going crazy. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. Javier kept asking what was wrong, kept trying to help, but Marcus couldn't tell him. Couldn't tell anyone. This was a hole he'd dug himself, and he was the only one who could climb out. Or bury himself deeper. On the second night, Marcus decided to do something risky. He went to see Elena. Showed up at her apartment unannounced, and when she opened the door, she could tell something was seriously wrong. She pulled him inside, made him sit down, asked him what happened. And Marcus, he looked at this girl, this beautiful, innocent girl who'd somehow become the center of his entire universe, and he asked her a question. He asked if she'd ever felt like her father was too involved in her life. Too interested in who she was dating. Elena got this weird look on her face. Said it was funny he mentioned that because she'd been thinking the same thing lately. Said her dad had been acting strange, asking too many questions, showing up at weird times. Said she'd even joked with her mom about it, asked if her dad was becoming one of those overprotective fathers who can't let go. But her mom had just laughed it off, said the captain just cared about her safety. Marcus wanted to tell her everything right then. Wanted to explain what her father had been doing, how she'd been used, how none of this was her fault. But he couldn't. Because if he told her, if he exposed what the captain had been doing, it would destroy her. Would shatter her entire relationship with her family. Would make her question every relationship she'd ever had. So instead, Marcus did something else. He told Elena that he loved her. Really loved her. More than he'd ever loved anything or anyone in his life. And he told her that no matter what happened in the next few days, no matter what she heard about him or what people said, he needed her to know that what they had was real, that she was the best thing that ever happened to him, and that he was sorry. Elena looked confused, asked him what he was talking about, why he sounded like he was saying goodbye. But Marcus just kissed her, held her for a long time and then left. He had a decision to make and time was running out. The next morning Marcus called Captain Rodriguez. Told him he'd made his decision. They met at the same warehouse, same time, same setup. And when Marcus walked in, the captain was already there, looking confident, like he knew exactly how this was gonna play out. Rodriguez asked Marcus what he'd decided, and Marcus took a deep breath. Said he'd thought about it all night, weighed every option, considered every angle. And then he told the captain he'd take the deal. He'd become an informant. He'd give up his competitors, help the LAPD make their big bust, do whatever it took to keep himself out of prison and keep seeing Elena. The captain smiled, pulled out a folder, started going over the details of how it would work. The meetings, the information drops, the timeline for taking down the other organizations. He had it all planned out, every step choreographed like some twisted dance. And Marcus played along, nodded at all the right moments, asked the right questions, made it seem like he was all in. But here's what Captain Rodriguez didn't know. Here's what his arrogance and his need to control everything made him miss. Marcus had been recording the entire conversation from their first meeting. Had a device sewn into his jacket, high-quality audio, crystal clear. Every word the captain had said about using his daughter as bait, about manipulating her relationships, about the other men he'd entrapped, all of it was on tape. And while they were having this second meeting, Javier was delivering copies of that recording to 3 different people. One copy went to Marcus's lawyer with instructions to release it to the media if anything happened to Marcus. One copy went to a federal contact Marcus had, someone who'd been looking for dirt on Captain Rodriguez for years because the captain had a reputation for playing dirty. And the third copy? That one went to Elena, with a note explaining everything. Who Marcus really was, what her father had been doing, and why Marcus couldn't be with her anymore. Because Marcus realized something in those 48 hours. He realized that there was no winning this situation. If he took the deal and became a rat, he'd lose himself, become something he couldn't live with, and eventually Elena would find out anyway and hate him for it. If he refused and went to prison, he'd lose everything including Elena. But there was a third option. One the captain hadn't considered because he was too busy playing puppet master to see it coming. Marcus could expose everything. Could blow up the captain's career, his reputation, his entire operation. Could make sure the world knew what Rodriguez had been doing to his own daughter. It wouldn't save Marcus from prison. The evidence against him was still solid and Marcus knew that. But it would accomplish 2 things. It would free Elena from her father's manipulation, let her finally understand why her relationships always failed, give her the truth even if it hurt. And it would make sure Captain Rodriguez paid a price for what he'd done. Not a legal price maybe because cops protect their own, but a personal one. His daughter would know. His wife would know. Everyone would know what kind of man he really was. So when Marcus told the captain he'd take the deal, he was buying time. Time for those recordings to reach the right people. Time for the truth to come out. And when Captain Rodriguez realized what was happening, when his phone started blowing up with calls from his superiors asking about these recordings, when he understood that Marcus had just destroyed his career and his relationship with his daughter in one move, it was already too late. The look on the captain's face when he figured it out was something Marcus would remember forever. Pure rage mixed with disbelief mixed with the dawning realization that he'd been outplayed. Rodriguez went for his gun, but Marcus was faster. Not to shoot, just to stop him. Marcus told the captain that he could pull that trigger if he wanted, but it wouldn't change anything. The recordings were already out there. The truth was already spreading. And Elena was probably reading that letter right now, learning everything. The captain lowered his gun. Asked Marcus why. Why would he throw away the deal, throw away his freedom, throw away Elena? And Marcus told him the truth. Said that loving Elena had changed him, made him see that some things were more important than survival. Some things were worth sacrificing for. Like making sure the woman he loved was free from her father's manipulation, even if it meant Marcus could never be with her. Like making sure a corrupt cop paid for using his own daughter as a weapon. Like going down on his own terms instead of becoming something he hated. Captain Rodriguez just stared at him. And then he said something that Marcus didn't expect. He said she really didn't know about any of it. I never told her what I was doing because I knew she'd try to stop me. I told myself I was protecting her, keeping her safe from men like you. But maybe you're right. Maybe I was just using her. Maybe I'm no better than the criminals I hunt. And for the first time, Marcus saw Captain Rodriguez not as an enemy, not as Elena's father, but as another human being who'd made terrible choices and was just now realizing the cost. They stood there in that warehouse, two men who destroyed each other, waiting for the sirens that were inevitably coming. Because Marcus knew that backup was probably already on the way. The captain would have called for it the moment he realized what Marcus had done. And Marcus was okay with that. He'd made his peace. But then something unexpected happened. Captain Rodriguez holstered his gun, told Marcus to get out. Said he had about 10 minutes before his team arrived, and that was enough time for Marcus to disappear if he moved fast. Marcus was confused, asked why the captain was letting him go. And Rodriguez said, because my daughter loves you. And despite everything, despite all the terrible things you've done, you just proved you love her too. Enough to sacrifice yourself to free her from me? That's more than most men would do. So go. Get out of LA. Leave the life behind. And if you ever really loved her, don't come back. Don't contact her. Let her move on and find someone who can give her the normal life she deserves. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to say something, but he knew the captain was right. The best thing he could do for Elena now was disappear. Let her heal from all of this without him being a reminder of what happened. So Marcus left. Walked out of that warehouse, got in his Range Rover and drove. Just drove. Javier was waiting at a safe house with cash and fake documents, asking Marcus what the plan was. And Marcus told him there was no plan. Told him to take over the organization, go legit if possible, but whatever happened, Marcus was done. He was out. That was 6 months ago. Marcus is in a small town in Northern California now, running a legitimate restaurant, the irony not lost on him. He doesn't use his real name, doesn't talk about his past, just cooks and serves food and tries to forget. He doesn't know what happened to Captain Rodriguez. Doesn't know if the recordings destroyed his career or if the department covered it up. Doesn't know if Elena ever forgave her father or if their relationship survived. He thinks about calling her every single day. Has her number memorized, sometimes pulls out his phone and just stares at it. But he never makes the call. Because he promised the captain he'd stay away, and for once in his life, Marcus is keeping a promise. But here's the thing. Last week, someone new moved into town. A woman around Elena's age, been coming into the restaurant every day, always sits at the same table, always orders the same thing. And yesterday she left something behind. A napkin with a phone number written on it. And a note that just said, I know who you are and I forgive you, we need to talk. Marcus hasn't called the number yet. Doesn't know if he should. Doesn't know if it's really Elena or if it's a trap or if he's just imagining things because he wants so badly for it to be real. But what he does know is this. Some secrets, no matter how deep you bury them, always find a way to surface. Some connections, no matter how hard you try to break them, never fully sever. And some stories, no matter how much you want them to end, they just keep going, twisting and turning in ways you never expected. Because that's life, right? Messy, complicated, full of choices that have no right answers, only consequences. And Marcus's story? It's far from over. So here's what I need you to do. This story, what you just heard, it's only part 1. There's so much more that happened, so many details I couldn't fit into this video. Like what really happened to Captain Rodriguez after those recordings went public. What Elena did when she found out the truth. Whether that phone number is really from her or if it's something way more dangerous. And most importantly, what Marcus decides to do next. Because trust me, the next chapter of this story is even more insane than what you just watched. We're talking FBI involvement, cartel connections, and a twist that'll make everything you just heard look tame by comparison. So if you want to know what happens next, if you want to see how deep this rabbit hole really goes, you need to check out part 2 right now. I'm dropping the link on screen and in the description below. Click it, watch it, because I promise you, you're not ready for where this goes. And while you're at it, go ahead and binge our entire collection of stories like this. We've got dozens of them, each one crazier than the last. Real people, real situations, real consequences. The kind of stories that make you think about your own choices, your own secrets, your own life. So don't just stop here. Keep watching. Keep diving deeper. Because once you start uncovering these kinds of truths, you can't look away. Hit that next video. I'll see you there.